Are you tired of needing to remember multiple URLs just to access all of your self-hosted services? Today, we're going to simplify that by setting up Homepage, a sleek, customizable landing page for your server that puts everything at your fingertips. Hey everyone, welcome back to 10 of Tech and our server security series. In the last video, we set up Watchtower to automatically update some of our containers. If you missed that one, hit the card above or check the link in the description. I've put together a GitHub repository with all the files you need for this tutorial, including the Docker Compose files and configuration files we'll be working with today. You can find the link in the description below. Today, we're focusing on Homepage, which will serve as the main landing page for our server. We'll cover how to set up Homepage in a Docker Compose stack, how to customize Homepage, and how to use Homepage labels to make our applications appear on the landing page. By the end of this video, you'll have a landing page for your server to help you navigate across all your applications. Let's start by setting up Homepage in a Docker Compose stack. Let's go to our root Docker Compose file and make sure it will define our Homepage service and a network for it. I've chosen to define the Homepage service in a different file, so I'm simply including it here. Now let's make that file. We'll create a new directory called Homepage, and then create a Docker Compose file inside it where we will define our Homepage service. Copy the content from this file from my GitHub repository. Link is in the description. Homepage is essentially a website for our server, and it comes pre-packaged with some security. For example, it requires us to define allowed hosts for the web page to be available at. This will include our domain as well as our static IP address, if we want to be able to access it directly while on the local network. You should have the static IP and domain defined in your environment file already. If you want Homepage to be hosted on a subdomain, then you will need to add the subdomain before the domain variable. I like to have the Homepage hosted at our root domain, so I won't be using a subdomain. Homepage will be using its own dedicated network. We'll have Watchtower automatically update Homepage for us. And we want our reverse proxy traffic to host it at our root domain. We'll cover traffic and how its labels work in a future video. We will also need to allow Homepage to access the socket proxy so it can read the labels of other containers to know which ones to display on the website. But notice that we haven't provided any socket proxy URL in our environment variables. And that's because we need to define it in a separate configuration file for Homepage. First, we need to create the config directory inside our Homepage directory. Then we can create the Docker YAML file in it. Again, copy the contents for all files from the GitHub repository. This file is where we will be telling Homepage to use the Docker socket proxy instead of the Docker host. Remember, the host and port need to match the name and port of the socket proxy service we have set up. You can customize Homepage in many ways using settings, widgets, and bookmarks. In this video, I'll be showing you how to do a basic customization as a start, but feel free to change these on your own server however you like. Let's create a few new files that we will want for our customization. We'll go into each of these one at a time, starting with settings. The settings YAML file allows us to define application level options such as the title, background, layout, and styles. You'll notice that I've defined the security and maintenance groups in our layout. When we add our other services to our Docker Compose stack, we'll define which group we want them to appear in using Homepage labels. There are two types of widgets in Homepage: info widgets and service widgets. Info widgets are used to display information in the header, often about your system or environment. Service widgets are used to display the status of a service, often a web service or API. Info widgets are defined in the widgets YAML file. As you can see, I have defined to see various things including the date and time, the CPU and memory of my server, storage availability, and network usage. Services and their widgets are defined in the services YAML file. For us, this file is empty because we're going to define the service widgets using Homepage labels in the respective Docker Compose files instead. However, I still like to create this file to put in the documentation links for future reference. Bookmarks function similar to service widgets, but they are much simpler, serving only as a simple link to something else. Bookmarks are configured in the bookmarks YAML file. I've set up example bookmarks here that link to this YouTube video series and the related GitHub repository. Now let's explore how to use labels to place services onto our homepage by looking at the official documentation. The labels will mirror the service entry using dot notation, beginning with homepage. They are a little simpler than the regular service entry because you do not need to specify the server or container values, as they will be automatically inferred. We can also configure widgets along with the standard service entry, again using dot notation. Let's see how this has been done with our Watchtower service. We've put it in the maintenance group, given it a name, logo, and description, and configured its widget with the proper URL and API key. Not every service will have a special widget for it. In that case, it would just look like another bookmark, and you can define a URL for it to link to. Watchtower doesn't have a front end to link to, so we haven't set a URL for it. If you want to check if your service has a widget for it, then you can go to the Widgets tab and see if your services is in the list on the left-hand side. Once you've found it, you can find the instructions for what configurations are needed to make the widget work. Now let's go ahead and start up our Docker Compose stack to see how everything looks. If you have cloned the GitHub repo, you may want to start only the services we've configured so far, to avoid causing problems for our future services, such as Athelia. Now, we should be able to navigate to the server's IP address at port 3000 to see our homepage. At this stage, we won't be able to navigate to our server by the domain name because we haven't set up our traffic service, DNS rules, or port forwarding yet. These will all be done in future videos. So if you'd like to save time and automate the setup of homepage, I've included it in my Citadel setup script. Citadel is a comprehensive server security setup script that automates everything from firewall configuration to Docker security hardening. Check out the link below if you want to streamline your server setup. What's your favorite way to keep track of all of your self-hosted services on your server? Do you use a custom dashboard like Homepage, or do you use some other system? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you stay organized. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. In the next video, we'll be covering how to set up Portainer in our Docker Compose stack. And if you haven't yet seen our video on how to set up Watchtower, check it out here or in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.